Today, we're going to dive into some fascinating source material that weaves together three things that you would probably never expect to find in the same sentence: a brutal ancient tribal war, a dramatic courtroom defense, and a book of timeless wisdom. It's a pretty unique mix, so let's jump right in.
So right off the bat, you've got to be asking, what on earth could possibly connect these three things? Well, it turns out there's a kind of golden thread that ties them all together. And by following it, we're going to uncover a really powerful message about how we live our lives.
Okay, so our first theme is all about faithfulness. And the sources here are not subtle at all. They make it crystal clear that the choice to trust or to distrust has tangible and honestly incredibly high-stakes outcomes.
I mean, just look at the story of the Transjordanian tribes from First Chronicles. It's a tale of two completely different paths. On the one hand, when they were in the middle of a battle and cried out to God, trusting Him, they had a massive victory. But on the other hand, when they turned away and started worshiping other gods, the consequence was absolutely devastating: exile. The source presents it as a direct cause and effect.
And when we say victory, we're not talking about a small skirmish. They captured 100,000 people, not to mention hundreds of thousands of animals. It was huge. But the source emphasizes this one crucial point. This happened because the war was God's. Their success wasn't about their military genius. It's shown as a direct result of their trust.
But here's the thing. This idea of faithfulness, it isn't just for big nations and armies. It's also deeply personal. The same principle applies to individuals, and the source material gives us a super powerful example in the Apostle Paul.
So here's Paul literally defending himself in front of a king. You have to remember, this is a guy whose whole life had been about persecuting the first Christians, but his entire world just pivoted. It turned on a dime because of a single moment of obedience to this vision he had from God. That one act of faithfulness changed absolutely everything for him.
So where did that obedience lead? Well, according to the book of Acts, it led to this incredible mission. His faithfulness wasn't just for his own benefit. It became a commission to open people's eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan to God, all so they could receive forgiveness. His one personal act of obedience was meant to have global consequences. Pretty wild, right?
And this brings us right to our second big theme. Because if our faithfulness has consequences, well, so do our words. The source material from Proverbs is incredibly direct about the profound creative power that our words actually hold. Just let that sink in for a second. According to this text, this is not just some nice poetry. The source is arguing that our words literally have the power to create outcomes of either life or death. They're never just neutral.
So what does this power of the tongue actually mean? Well, the source gives us a few ways to think about it. Our words can be creative, building things up, or they can be destructive, tearing things down. They can be like a healing medicine or like a wounding sword. And this last point is so key. Our words are described as fruit that we ourselves will eventually have to eat. We essentially live in the world that our own words create.
And you can see this difference so clearly. On the life side, you've got the Levites, who ministered with joyful singing. And there's Paul again, speaking words of truth and reason even when a governor called him crazy. But then look at the death side. You have the fool from Proverbs, whose mouth leads to his own destruction. And then there's gossip, which is described as a snare for the soul. The contrast couldn't be clearer.
So, this naturally leads to a pretty personal question. What kind of reality are your words creating for you and for the people around you? Which brings us to our third and final theme. And this is where everything really connects. In a world full of consequences and powerful words, where do you find true safety? Where's the refuge? Here's the central image we get from Proverbs: a strong tower, a fortress. Now, the source explains that the name of the Lord isn't some magic phrase. It represents His entire character and person. It really means finding security in who God is.
And the source then draws this really sharp contrast. On one side, you have the idea of absolute, real protection in God. On the other side, you have what a rich person might trust in: their wealth. The text calls this kind of security an illusion, a fortress that exists only in their imagination, one that's unable to truly protect them when things get real. So how do we actually run to this tower? Well, it's an active process. First, it takes humility. You have to admit you need help. Second, it means turning away from the other things we rely on, whether that's sin or just our own strength. And finally, it's a complete trust, depending only on God for safety.
And there it is. This is the golden thread we've been following. This very act of running to God for refuge.
That's what ties the warring tribes, the dedicated priests, and the apostle on trial all together.
I mean, think about it. The tribes, they ran for refuge by crying out to God in the middle of a battle. The Levites, the priestly tribe who weren't given any land of their own, they ran for refuge by finding their entire inheritance and provision in God himself. And Paul, facing chains and potential execution, ran for refuge by staking his entire life on his faith in the resurrected Christ.
The source material really brings it all home with this beautiful idea from Proverbs, this strong tower, this refuge. It isn't just a place, it's a person. The ultimate fulfillment of this promise is found in a friend who never leaves, who, the source says, is Jesus Christ, who stands as our defense.
So we're left with these three powerful interconnected ideas. Our faithfulness has real consequences. Our words build worlds. And our ultimate security is found not in things, but in a refuge. So the final question is pretty simple. Knowing all this, what kind of world will you choose to build today?